Here we're on the front of our Thor Magnitude GA. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough or tutorial like you would get with a technician on the data delivery, going through showing you the components on this unit and exactly how they work. You may have different name brands in your unit, or you want a deeper dive on these components and more. You can find that on our YouTube channel under the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. Make sure you click like, subscribe, share, all that stuff helps support the channel and the content that we're giving to you. For the time being, we're going to start here in the front. Well, under our hoods, the main thing we want to look at in the front here, we have our chassis battery, which is going to be separate from our house batteries. So our chassis is going to run just our engine stuff, and our house batteries is going to run all the camper side of things. We'll show you in a little while. Our transmission fluid, oil down here. We have our air filter under here. Of course, we have oil fill and our brake and our radiator fluid right there as well. Now, of course, changing the oil, keeping track of your fluids, all that stuff is going to be regular owner's maintenance. You keep track of all that stuff just like you would your everyday vehicle. All right, so on our driver's side, we have our side camera mount. Whenever you activate your blinker, that will activate and give you view right there beside you when you're changing lanes. To the right of that, of course, we have our generator. We open those latches. We're gonna open it up. We have our gas prime button, so it is a gas operated generator. We hold down that prime button and that will activate our fuel pump, send it to our carburetor, that way it'll prep it to start. We hold down this push start button and that unit will activate, sending power to our transfer switch and then into our unit. Now, if you ever have your generator running and all of a sudden you don't have power, you've checked the breakers on the inside of your unit, we want to come over here and check this breaker right here and see if it is tripped. If so, we want to hit this reset button, reactivate that system. And before we do that, we want to turn off like our AC system, because otherwise it will overpower this generator right whenever you try to kick that power back on, bog it down, and run the risk of it shutting that generator down or re-tripping that breaker. So turn off some of your appliances, come back over here, reset this breaker, and maybe go turn some of those appliances back on. More than likely you have too much running and it tripped the breaker on this system. Now, to the right over here, we have our hour meter. Of course, that's going to help us keep track of our hours. That way we can keep track of our maintenance, when to change the oil, air filter, and so on. Once again, all customer maintenance you need to take care of based on the hour that's in there and on our maintenance manual. We have a couple of lights right here that are going to give us some diagnostics on the unit in the event that anything happens. That's about all there is to know. If you do start it out here, we want to make sure we put this cover back on. If not, that air is not going to circulate properly and that unit is not going to cool properly, causing it to overheat. We can also start it from the inside. We'll go over that whenever we get in there. From there, we have our water heater right here. That's a Girard tankless water heater. 12 volts to power it up, and of course we need our propane to heat that water. We'll go over the operation of that when we get on the inside to that control panel. Down below, we have a storage compartment right here in our first compartment. Also deep in there, you'll see that box, that control box right there. That is for our Schwintek slide out right here. And that would be the override for it. We do have a video that goes over our Schwintek slides and how to operate that override on that board. If you ever need it, you might want to check that out. Next, we have our propane tank system with our gauge right here. It lets us know full or empty. This is how you would turn that system off and on right here. Generally, when you store a unit, you're going to turn that system off. And we'll go over a little bit more about our propane system when we hit the stove tops on the inside. These components up here are used for filling, so we won't have to worry about that until we get it filled at the appropriate station. City water connection right here. This is where we'd hook our water hose up from the campground and supply water to our fixtures once we turn that bib on. Over to the right, drop that down. We have some storage right here in that slide out compartment up high. Down below it, of course, we have our axle. To the right of that, we have our part cable. We hook our coax up from the part cable right there. We can scan for channels on the inside to provide cable. Now, we're also going to have antenna on this unit. We'll go over the operation of the antenna when we get to the inside. Have our 30-amp twist lock plug. Want to insert this in first, tighten this ring up on there, keep kids from pulling it out or anything like that. And then we go ahead and plug it into our shore power there at the campsite. Want to plug this in first to reduce any arcing or anything like that on this plug. And same thing whenever we disconnect, unplug that in first, then unplug this to store your cord. Make sure we have our AC and stuff off when we unplug and plug in our unit as well. so we don't cause any surges to that component. In this rear compartment right here, we have space to where we can pass through and store a table if we like. We also have behind that our unleaded fuel fill and our black tank flush, and of course our black tank disposal right there. Let's take a closer look at how that operates. Right down here we have our sewer connection for our sewer line. That would either go to our dump station or the site if they have the dump station there at the site. We have our gray handle right here, a black handle right here in the back. Gray is going to be for our gray tank, which is our sink water and our shower water in our unit. We can go ahead and leave that valve open all the time if we have that sewer connection there at the campsite, rather than having to come out here and empty it out every time it gets full. Our black tank, however, that is coming from our toilet. That's our sewage water, so we're gonna have some solids in that tank. We need to make sure that valve stays closed until we are ready to dump. The reason being is those solids can dry up, they can get stuck in that tank, and you're never going to be able to get it out, so it's best to keep that valve closed so we keep water in that system, keep that stuff from solidifying. Plus our chemicals will mix with that water and help decay anything else that is in there. When we are ready to dump that black tank, have our sewer hose hooked up, pull that valve, let everything start draining out. We hook a regular water hose up to our black tank flush right there and kick it on. That is going to send water to a jet port on the other side, helping push any debris and everything else towards this valve and help flush out that system. Whenever we're done, disconnect that black tank flush, close our black tank valve, go on the inside, hold the pedal down on your toilet, fill that tank up with several gallons of water. You can, of course, drop your chemicals in there too. Now, of course, we're probably still going to have a little bit of stuff stuck to our walls and everything in there. That's all right. The water, as you're traveling down the road, will help knock some of that stuff down. And then, of course, your chemicals that you dropped in will help decay it for the next time that you flush out that tank. We do have some other pro tips on how to flush out our black tank. You can find that under the HAPS Helpful Hacks section on our Great American RV YouTube channel. On the back of our unit, we do have our backup camera right up there built into that third brake light. And that backup camera can kick on when you put it in reverse, or whenever you're traveling down the road. You can turn it on so you can see behind you what's towing, who's behind you, so on and so forth on our monitor on the inside. We also have these plastic bumper caps on the end of our bumper. We can pop that off and store our sewer hose in there if we wish. We have our receiver hitch and 7-way plug in the back. We tow a trailer, tow a vehicle, whatever we want behind us. We're also going to have our factory supply ladder that's going to lead to our roof. That's important because we need to get up there and check the sealant around all of our vents, our side rails, all that stuff every 60 to 90 days. Manufacturer says so in your owner's manual, and it's very important you do that. We also need to check the sealant around all of our trims, our windows, lights, all that stuff to make sure, once again, we're not seeing any cracking, peeling, decaying, anything like that, deterioration on our roof or our sides. And if we see that, we need to clean it, reseal it with the appropriate sealant. If we don't do that, we're going to allow the opportunity for water to get in our unit, damage it, and manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of repair because it is considered customer maintenance. If we don't take care of it, it's going to be on us for the repair. So make sure that we are staying on top of our sealants and checking everything, cleaning it, resealing it when necessary. We also need to gain access to our roof to wash that rubber roof at least twice a year. And then we also want to make sure after trips that no low-lying tree limbs have poked any holes in that rubber as well, causing water entry as a possibility. On the passenger side, of course, we have our freshwater connection right here. If we don't have a city water connection, meaning we're dry camping, we don't have that hose bib, wherever we're camping out, we can go ahead and pre-fill this onboard storage tank with water, pull that cap off, take a water hose, stick it in there, let it go ahead and fill up before we head out to that site. Kick on our water pump on the inside, it'll pull out of that tank and provide us water to our fixtures. Now, this does add weight to your unit, so if we want to make sure we're only putting in however much we may need, so we're not overweighing our unit with unnecessary water if we don't need it. This is another good idea to drain out that water if we're not using it. We don't want to leave it in there for an extended period of time because that water will become stagnant after a while. It'll help keep that tank sanitized. We'll go over where that drain is in a little while when we hit our low point drains and our fresh tank drain. Here we have our outdoor TV with a 110 outlet in there. We're also going to have another 110 outlet right here. Both of them GFCI protected. We'll show you where that main GFCI protected breaker is on the inside whenever we get in there. Down low, just another storage compartment. And to the left of all that, of course, we have our Suburban furnace right here, 12 volts to power it up, and propane to go ahead and heat that air. When we hit our thermostat on the interior, we'll go over the operation of that. We have our last compartment right here, just storage. Now we have a little bit of information on our awning. So we can see here we have our 12 volt powered awning, flip of switch, roll it in and out. Same thing for our lights. Keep mentioning 12 volt components. We're gonna have our 12 volt fuse panel on the inside if any of this stuff stops operating. That's where we're gonna go for diagnostics first. So we have our awning. Important thing to know about our awning, it is mainly a sunshade. Keep it out there in the sun, shield us from the sun. If it starts to rain, we probably want to go ahead and pull it in. It can handle a little bit of light rain. Of course, we'll probably get some residual condensation on there from our AC, of course, dew as well. Well, all of that stuff has to find a way to roll off of our awning, and it's a pretty simple way to do it. We just lean our awning either in the front or the back, and we can do that by sliding this down. We tighten up this knob right here, and now our awning is pitched to the rear to where that water can run off. When we're ready to roll that awning in, we loosen that knob, let our shock push our arm back up, we're ready to go. If you are leaving your camper for an extended period of time, you know a storm is coming in, windstorm, rainstorm, whatever the case may be, roll that awning in. You don't want the insurance claim, I promise you. So just go ahead, be careful, be cautious, roll it in whenever you're not using it. All right, so at our entry step, if we flip this latch up right here, we can pull our step up. We'll have access to our house batteries right there. We do have an extra spot if we want to add that second battery. These are going to be wet cell batteries, so we need to remove these caps, make sure the water level is above those plates in there to maintain them. We want to put distilled water. We're also going to have some various fuses down here for different 12 volt components on this unit, so it's another place to check for diagnostics if something ever happens. Over here on the side, we're going to have our meter. This is a quick cheat for our tank system. So our batteries, green is good, red is bad, showing it would be low. Fresh tank, red is bad, showing that it would be empty, right? And green, it would show that it's full. AGS is our automatic generator system. So we'll go over a little bit on that when we get to that control, but basically you can set your generator up to run if the batteries get too low or if your temperature changes on your unit. So when we get to the main controller, we'll go over the settings on that. If you wanted to enable that system, you could just hit that button right there and activate it. Our black tank and our gray tanks, green is going to mean that they are in a safe level, red would mean that they are full and need to be empty. If we want to turn these LED lights off, we just hold this down for 2 seconds, it'll kick them off. Want to turn them back on, hold it down for 2 seconds, that system will come back on. Here we have our Go Power controller right here for our solar. It is a 10 amp solar controller already prepped in your system for solar. There aren't a whole lot of settings in here. If you change your battery type that you have in here from the wet cell to like lithium or something, you would have some settings in there you would want to go change and consult the owner's manual. Above that, we have our driver and passenger side jacks. These are just stabilizers. Now they are electric. It's going to be 12 volt operated. We're dropping one down. We're going to take a look at it here in a second when it hits the ground. But basically, we want to level our unit from left to right first, and it may take some stacker blocks being put under our tires in order to accomplish that. But you level your unit from left to right, and then you're going to hit that button and drop down those BAL stabilizer jacks, and that's going to help reduce the movement on your unit whenever you're moving around. Now you do have that override right there. In the event the motor goes out, you want to disable the 12 volts, come over here and manually crank to be able to get that stabilizer up. Now they do have a buzzer warning on there. Basically that's just an alarm to let you know once the ignition is on, that alarm will go off and let you know you need to retract your jacks, which you can do by just hitting that retract button. Next, you have your on-off for your battery disconnect. We want to use this whenever we are storing our unit unplugged. We want to go ahead and swap that to off. If we are storing our unit plugged in, we want to go ahead and leave it on. Or if we're using our unit in general, anytime we have it plugged in, we want to turn that switch on so our converter system will charge our battery. Above that, we have our awning in and out, our awning lights, our step lights, our cargo lights for all of our compartments outside, then our interior switch lights right there, another GFCI protected outlet there. Jumping straight into our driver's seat, we can see we have our regular setup from forward for our lights. We have our heated mirrors up here. We also have our left and right to be able to control our powered mirrors. We can go ahead and kick our ignition on right here and demonstrate. When we kick our blinkers on, we have our side blinkers that kick on each side. And then when we put it in reverse, of course, we have our backup camera. Now, a couple of other things that our radio can do is actually run our unit. If we go to home, we can see that we have our RV control down here at the bottom, and this is where we would extend and retract our slide out. Our slide out is a Schwintek slide. If you want more information on that, we do have a video, as mentioned, in that first compartment where that controller is. It goes over how to override that system if we ever have a problem. So we need to have our emergency brake on and our engine on. We hold down that button for a couple seconds, and then our slide out will begin to extend out. Beyond that, we have our emergency start right there. What that will do is connect our chassis battery with our house batteries. If for whatever reason our chassis battery is dead, then we can hold down that button. It will connect the two almost like a set of jumper cables, and we can start our engine. Let off, it turns off. We have our 12-volt tank heaters right here. We can kick those on in extreme weather, and there's a 12-volt mat on there to heat them up and prevent them from freezing up. Our water pump right here, that will pull from that fresh tank we talked about and supply water to our fixtures in the event we don't have a city water connection at the campsite where we're at. We don't want to have that on if we have a city water connection. It is an on-demand pump, so it's only going to operate when you have it on and you're using your fixtures. After you turn off your faucet, it will vibrate for a couple more seconds, just priming the system, and then it should shut off. If you notice where it's running all the time and we don't have any of our faucets on, want to check and make sure our tank isn't empty. And if it's not, then we also want to check and make sure we don't have a leak in the system. Either way, we want to turn that off and investigate. Over to the right of our fresh tank gauge right here, of course, we have our black and gray tanks right there, and it will tell us what our current levels are. Our propane has a gauge right here as well, tell you what its current level is, and then it'll also tell you any errors we may have on the side. If we hit this little generator button right here up top, that will bring us to our automatic generator start option, that AGS that we talked about over by the door. Now we can enable this by turning that system on right there. It will not run if our engine is running, so if our engine's running, we want to make sure that it's cut off in order to enable this system. Once again, we can also turn it on by that blue button by the door as well. So we can decide from here how we want our generator system to work. So if we want to base it off of our voltage dropping down below 11.5 volts, that system needs to be on right here, and we can adjust that voltage setting to whatever we would want it to be to kick that generator on. When we want it to stop is when that battery level reaches 13.3 here, once again also adjustable. We can also adjust how long we want our generator to actually run, whether we want it 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or so on. And then we can also run the max level of 120 minutes over here. So minimum amount of 10, maximum of 120 to be able to get to that charge level right there. We also have our temperature option right here, 80 degrees. We can go ahead and change that to 75. So we can use that based on our AC system. Our AC would kick on, and if our temperature reaches 77, our generator is going to start, that AC will kick in, it'll start cooling our unit. We can also put our quiet times as far as when we don't want it to run down there at the bottom. But basically we would use this if we're leaving our unit set up somewhere, we're not plugged in, want that generator to kick on and operate, or if we just want it to kick on regularly just so it can run and we keep it maintained, we can do that too. And once again, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to, you just kick that system off. Right here, it will tell you the current mode that it's in. Generator is stopped. If we were to go ahead and start it, of course, it's going to let us know that that generator is running. We have our temperature right there, 81 degrees. I have it in manual mode right now. We can stop it from here as well, or prime that system just like we did outside. This will also give our current battery level for our house batteries, as you can see there. Now if we go to our home page right here, this is where that AGS option is right there. We also have RV control that brought us to our slide out. We have some other settings in here to be able to hook up your Bluetooth options and stuff. We can also monitor our rear camera from here as well, even though we're not backing up. If we wanted to Bluetooth, we go into BT phone right there, and then we can go ahead and hit paired. We would search for our phone, put in that pairing code, and we can have our phone hooked up to the system. Now we can also hook up to our phone through one of these USBs right here that hooks to the back of the radio, and that would charge it and communicate some of our stuff like our audio from that phone as well. Our AC system is going to be standard just like it would on any other Ford. We have our steering wheel controls for our cruise control and everything for our dial up there, that LED display, to be able to go through some of that. This is going to control our radio system. If we hit some of these, like our camera, that's going to automatically bring up our camera over there. We can start and end a call, our volume controls, mute button, and then our source, whether we want radio, Bluetooth, so on and so forth. We can change that and then skip tracks with these bottom two buttons down here. Up above our cabin area, of course, we have a cushion right here we can go ahead and put in place for more sleeping area. We flip that down, push that rear cushion back, have it down. We can add our ladder right here to gain access. We want more headroom to be able to get in and out of there. We just flip that up and store it there. Up above our recliners in that first compartment towards our bunk area, we're going to notice our coax plate right here. This is going to be where our own antenna boost is. So we would use antenna when we are searching for antenna channels on our TV. We would want to boost it, flip that switch, and that green light will turn on, letting you know our antenna power is on, helping you pick up more channels in that area. Now, if we have cable at the campground, I want to flip that button off. That way it doesn't scramble the channels from the cable at the campsite. All right, for our dinette, it can go down into a bed. You're going to have a little latch down here. Pull that latch over to the left, and then basically you just push down. We'd sit our cushions up, let that go all the way down. We could take our back cushions, set them on top, have more bed space. We're ready to pull it up, lift it up, take that latch, flip it to the right. We'll show you that latch right there. So that is the locked position. Basically, you're just latching it into that space right there. Go ahead, flip it over to disengage it, slide it up and down, and back to lock it in. All right, in our kitchen area, of course, we have our sink, our 110 microwave, our light, our exhaust fan for outside to be able to ventilate over our range. And then, of course, we have our range. Glass top right here for more counter space, also how you need to have it when you travel. We flip it up to cook. Pretty self-explanatory up here. We pick whatever burner we want. Of course, we have our propane on. We turn it to the flame icon, and we're going to manually crank it until it lights. Once it lights, cook, good to go, shut it off. Now, you'll notice each burner has a little red light that turns on whenever it is initiated to let you know gas is flowing out. Kids like to play with things, so it's a good indicator that stuff is on. Now, funny thing about our propane is we can get air in our system. This can generally happen whenever we have run out of fuel, run out of propane in our system, got it refilled, or it can happen when we store our unit with that propane off. The propane can dissipate in the line, you'll end up with air in the system. Now I suggest you bleed the air out of your system, and you can easily do that by turning your propane on, coming straight over here and lighting the stovetop. It's the best thing to do before operating things like your furnace or your water heater. Otherwise, those items will go into a fault because you didn't bleed the air out and it's trying to light air rather than gas, right? Same thing with our oven down here at the bottom. Open up our oven, go to the knob right here, turn it to the flame icon. Well, we have to push this button down in order to keep emitting gas out of that pilot. Crank it to the pilot lights. Once it lights, wait about 15 seconds. Then we can let off and turn to our appropriate temperature. Now, that burner tube should light up. It still may take a little bit of time after the first time you light it, after you bled the air out. That's only because that hole is very small and it takes a little time to bleed the air out. But it will light eventually. If that flame goes out, just go back, relight it, hold it down for another 15 seconds, and then go to the appropriate temperature again. So here we have our 12-volt refrigerator. We do have a travel latch on there. We want to go ahead and latch that in whenever we're in travel so our doors don't fly open. We are going to have a temperature gauge here at the bottom, 0 to 7, and that is going to go obviously from cold to colder. 0 would be our off position, and then in our freezer, we're going to have a dial up here from minimum to maximum for our temperature. Now, important thing about our refrigerator is when we go to store our unit, if we're shutting our system down, want to defrost that refrigerator, dry it all out. Anything you had in the freezer, right, ice or anything that might have been in there, it's going to melt. We need to make sure we wipe all that stuff out of there, and then wipe down our fridge, leave them open to air out. We leave any liquids in there, it can drip out, damage our wood components around our refrigerator, and manufacturers aren't going to take care of that kind of repair. It's going to be considered customer maintenance to defrost your fridge properly so no damages incur from it. To the left of our oven, we do have a low point drain sticker right here. If we were to pull this cover off, we'll have our valves for a low point drain and to be able to drain out that fresh tank. The low point drains are going to be used for winterization. We have some more videos on that, but basically it's prepping your unit for winter time. You can find more information on that in your owner's manual as well as Hap's Helpful Hacks. All right, into our bedroom, we do have our bed. It drops down right here whenever we are ready to sleep. When we run that slide out in, we need to make sure we flip it up because of course that slide is going to come all the way in. We are prepped up there with our TV mount and our coax antenna and cable, and then our 110 outlet for that TV. We have that Coleman thermostat for our AC system up there. We're going to go over the operation of that and cover our ceiling assembly right now. Just outside our bathroom, we have our thermostat for our Coleman Mach AC rooftop air. If we go ahead and click on it, we would have our options for off, cool, heat, cool heat, and then also cool dry. So as we circulate through these options, obviously off is off. We go into cool, we hit that button right there, we can choose our fan speed. We have high or low auto, meaning that fan will turn off or on with the compressor. Then we have low and high, which means that fan would stay on all the time no matter how that compressor is operating. We click it one more time, it'll bring us to our current room temperature, what our set temperature is. If we turn that dial, it will change our set temperature to whatever we desire. Click that button again, it'll bring it back to our main screen. Click it one more time, we can go into our heat option. We click it, we have our set temperature. We can obviously go ahead and change there. That will initiate our furnace and of course our room temperature. That is going to initiate that gas furnace, and the hot air is going to be coming out of our lower vents and stuff right here. Our cold air for our AC is going to be coming out of our rooftop vents there. So don't be confused as to which one operates which. We hit it again and we can go into our cool heat option. Same thing, we'll have our fan setting right there for the cool option on which one we want to use. Now this operates to where based on our set temperature. So if it's regulating cold and hot and wherever we're at, we can go ahead and choose, let's say 65 degrees. Maybe we want it to kick on at night whenever it's cold. That heater will kick on, keep us at 66. Maybe that temperature rises throughout the day and then our AC can kick on and cool it off. Our next mode is our cool dry mode. So basically this works as a dehumidifier. We go ahead and choose our set temperature and we're going to notice that this system runs based on that set temperature, and it's going to help keep the moisture out of your unit. And we go into our off mode and then we can actually just have just the rooftop fan running, meaning it's not cooling, we're not heating, we're not anything. It's just that rooftop air circulating air throughout our unit. So we can choose high or low and just that rooftop air fan will be running. So we have our ceiling assembly right here. You're going to notice two vents on the end right here with the little slides. We want those closed when we want the air to ventilate through our ceiling ducts right there. We can leave them open to cool just this area off fairly quickly, but if we want them to go through the ducts, they do need to be closed. You're going to have a filter on each side. We want to pull those tabs down, pull that filter out, and clean that filter every now and again so we're not restricting air to the AC and helping it work efficiently. Down below our bed, you're going to see that COLP detector right there. Of course, a green light is going to signify that it is powered up. You're going to have a little test button on there that's going to test the audible alarm, and that's to warn you of any CO or LP gas that may leak into your unit and warn you you need to evacuate. It does have an expiration date stamped on the back of it, so we need to be aware of that and test it on a regular basis to make sure that alarm is working. We're also going to have smoke detectors in our unit powered by a 9-volt battery that needs to be tested as well. Here we're going to have our 12-volt and 110 control center. That is where our 12-volt fuses and our 110 breakers are going to be located. We're going to notice everything is labeled in there so we know what they go to. Our fuses are going to be right down here on the lid. And so any components that stop working, we want to come here first and check, make sure no breakers are tripped and no fuses are blown. Check that first and see if that doesn't fix your problem. And last stop, we have our bathroom. Obviously we're going to have our shower in here. That shower does have our hot cold faucet right there on the side, but we also have an on off on our shower head. That's used when you're dry camping. You're trying to conserve the amount of water you're pulling from your fresh tank, as well as the water that you're putting into your gray tank, because you don't have a place to refill or a place to dump. So you can do that without having to find the sweet spot on our hot cold. We can just shut it off there on the shower head in between lathering up and rinsing off when we're taking that shower. We're also going to have our vent up here. That vent can be controlled by our little switch right here on the side. Want to use that whenever we take a shower, get the heat and humidity out of here, reduce the chance for mold and mildew. We have our toilet down here. Toilet's activated by our foot pedal here on the side. Foot pedal is going to open our valve in the bottom of that toilet, flush it down into our black tank. So we talked about our black tank outside. Our solids and stuff are going to go in there for sewage. We're only talking about a couple things when it comes to sewage. Number 1, liquids. Number 2, solids. Number 3, RV toilet paper only. And number 4, chemicals. Don't put any other items in that tank system. It may not make it out of the valve, cause some clogging issues for you. So speaking of number 1 and number 2, if it's liquids, go ahead, put it in there, hit that pedal, flush it down the drain. Number 2, solids. Want to make sure we fill that bowl about half to 3/4 of the way so we have enough water to actually flush those solids and then make it down to the tank without any clogging issues. We can do that by barely pushing this pedal down right here. It keeps the valve closed on the bottom, and it allows that bowl to start filling up with some water, at which point we can go ahead and flush when we have the appropriate amount. Last 2 things that we have in our bathroom is our Girard tankless water heater system, as well as our GFCI, which is mounted right here under the counter. We'll go over the operation of those 2 things now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the 2 types of temperature. We have our on off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shut-off mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. So that main GFCI outlet right here, we're going to see 2 buttons. One is going to be a reset, one is going to be a test. If that system were ever tripped, you'll see that red light right there. You can hit that reset button, and it will reset and put power back to all those GFCI protected outlets. Now 2 things that cause these to trip is either the outlets are wet, or you have too many appliances plugged into it. Griddles, blow dryers, coffee makers, so on and so forth can overamp this system and it'll trip. When you go to reset it, it will trip again right away if it's wet or overloaded. So go check those outlets, make sure they're not wet, and make sure you don't have too much stuff plugged in, then try to come reset it again.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.